So what's going on with Navient today? That's what I want to talk about, amongst a few other things. And I just realized that there's a fan in here, so hopefully this mic isn't picking up a ton of fan noise, but if it is, my apologies. This is the first time I've recorded it in my new studio. What do you think about my new studio? But in fact, I'm actually in the garage because I'm looking for, I need to find some screws and some anchors so I can finish hanging the green screen for, in fact, our real studio. But while I was in here, I was like, I'm gonna record a video. I'm gonna bring you guys this information. Also, Michelle Squirrel Tribe, she's recording her video, so I was giving her space. And even though we do make videos together quite frequently and we are recording very often, sometimes it's just more comfortable to have your privacy and isolation when talking to camera. It's kind of weird. It's okay to do it together and it's okay to do it alone, but when you're talking to the camera by yourself and people are watching you, it's just like, it changes things, I guess. But I came across this story today from Navient, and this is Navient student loan bankruptcy, $16 million class action settlement. And it says that Navient agreed to pay $16 million to resolve claims that student loans owned by the company should have been discharged during bankruptcy. And the settlement benefits borrowers or co-borrowers of Navient-owned student loans who filed for bankruptcy protection after October 17th, 2005, after they became obligated to repay their student loans and who have never reaffirmed their private student loans. And this is pretty important, because it was my understanding that typically student loan debt was not going to be discharged in a bankruptcy. But after a little bit of after reading this and seeing this headline and doing a little bit more digging, according to federal student loan or federalstudentaid.gov or studentaid.gov, they say that discharge in bankruptcy, if you declare bankruptcy and the bankruptcy court determines repaying your loans would cause undue hardship, your loans can be discharged. That is really, really important. You may have your federal student loan, again, studentaid.gov. I don't know if you guys can see the website. Sorry for the glare. I've got natural light coming in, but when I show you guys my phone on the screen, then you see that natural light. Hang on one second. Hang on. Sorry if I sound like an old man, but my shoulder is still bugging me. Alright, so I'm going to lose a little bit of light. Alright, I'm going to lose a little bit of light, but we've reduced the glare a little bit. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Studentaid.gov. See if it'll focus. Does that focus? You may have your federal student loan discharged in bankruptcy only if you file a separate action is key, known as an adversary proceeding, requesting the bankruptcy court find that repayment would impose undue hardship on you and your dependents. So that's interesting news. It's actually really good to know, as I was unaware until today. Until I started doing some digging. And this is I think a topic of discussion for a lot of people because of the student loan repayments coming back, and also income-based repayment. Well, we're going to go a little bit further here on top class actions, and it says that Navient hasn't admitted any wrongdoing but agreed to a $16 million settlement to resolve the student loan bankruptcy class action lawsuit. Under the terms of the settlement, class members can submit a claim for damages they suffered, including student loan payments made after bankruptcy filing. Class members could receive between 20% and 100% of the damages they sustained. Navient also agreed to forego the collection of certain outstanding balances, and this may be entire loan balances or partial balances. The company will also delete or update all trade lines at credit reporting agencies related to these forgiven debts. According to the settlement website, this debt relief is valued at $182.4 million, and the deadline for exclusion and objection is November 13, 2023. So it says who's eligible. It includes borrowers or co-borrowers of Navient-owned student loans who filed for bankruptcy protection after October 17th, 2005, after they became obligated to repay their student loans, and who have never reaffirmed their private student loans. So as long as you haven't basically like refinanced your student loans, then, and you fall within that date range. And again, studentaid.gov. We're just unraveling this story. I wish I could get rid of all the glare. Maybe I'll bring some lights in here, do more videos in here. But it says that agreeing to repay, this is what is affirmation. Agreeing to repay the excess loan amount in accordance with the terms of the promissory note is called reaffirmation, and you can reaffirm an excess loan amount by signing a reaffirmation agreement with your loan servicer. So sorry about that. That was a little different than a refinance. So I don't know if y'all can see that. Let's see. Maybe. That's better right there, right? Now, initially, I thought we were about to hear some news about Navient filing bankruptcy, but I'd be willing to bet that Navient's pretty solvent with as much interest that they earn off of these student loan debts that usually never really get repaid. But there's more to this bankruptcy story, folks. And we got a popular food brand that files Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and it heads to liquidation. And they say that this is from The Street, not just from some dude on the street, but this website called The Street. And its sudden demise could lead to higher prices at grocery stores and restaurants, as well as a loss of American jobs. When a retailer goes out of business, it usually follows a predictable arc that sharp customers can spot. You often see signs like dwindling inventory, certain sizes being sold out, and fewer employees working in the store. With a public company, it can be even easier because those companies must share their financials. It's usually a gradual process, but repeated quarters with losses and dwindling cash reserves start to paint a picture of a company in trouble. Now, I was watching Louis Rossmann this morning, I believe Louis Rossmann this morning, and he was sharing his opinions on the possible likelihood of this very platform here, YouTube, potentially headed towards bankruptcy. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to that, but he thinks that YouTube doesn't make any money. But Google or Alphabet keeps YouTube alive for other reasons, because YouTube doesn't directly make money, but it indirectly brings money in. But based on their operating expense and overhead costs for just basic maintenance and expansion of their servers, he thinks that maybe YouTube doesn't make any money. And despite its $50+ billion annual, I think it's 50 billion, maybe 30, I don't know, advertising or total revenue, I don't think they've ever really actually shared their financials, because they get lumped into Alphabet's financials. So there aren't really specific numbers for YouTube. But this is all stemming off of YouTube canceling, or I'm sorry, their new policy against ad blockers, and how there's speculation that this could literally be the end of YouTube, because YouTube is alienating their viewers who aren't watching ads. But it's actually a pretty simple and easy concept to understand, because YouTube's going to make a majority of their money off of advertising. So getting rid of the viewers who aren't actually watching the ads, who are also not paying for YouTube Premium, It's literally like Walmart getting rid of the customers or shoppers who are just stealing from them. So everybody's got their opinion. But either way, this article here from the street says that if you take a recent bankruptcy like Bed Bath & Beyond, analysts have had concerns about the company going back as far as COVID days. And it was easy to see that the retailer had seen steady drops in sales while also starting to run out of cash. I think Party City was another one that fell victim to this. Now, it says that once it actually filed Chapter 11, it became clear that the company needed a major cash infusion in order to keep operating, and that did not happen, and the company went relatively quickly from attempting to reorganize its business to liquidating it. With private companies, the end can be more sudden. That's especially true when the company isn't consumer-facing like a wholesaler or manufacturer, which is one of the things that I shared with you guys many times before, which was no matter who you work for, but especially if you work for a private company, it would be wise to have regular discussions and conversations about the actual profitability and liquidity of the company, just in case, maybe. Granted, the information that they choose to share with you, if they even allow you access to it, is up for interpretation, but you may be surprised at the type of answer you get, or the response, or the body language, or anything like that. Obviously, as a business, you probably wouldn't want to tip your employees off that there could be a problem, because then they would then tell other employees, and then the problem would then rapidly evolve in a way that was unexpected, more so than just bleeding cash and losing money and not being profitable, but then losing your staff. That would be terrible. But in this particular instance, this story, you got some fresh salmon here. It actually got me kind of hungry now. This photo they're showing. There's like a sweet spot here on focus, glare, and yeah, I'm gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out together, right? Smash the like button if you want me to figure out how to show you these things without this intense glare. But it says that Blue Harvest Fisheries may not be a name that everyone knows, but it was a massive operation that was intended at its 2015 creation to dominate the New England fishing industry. And that was a bold goal that it never achieved. And now, after suspending its fishing operations in September, the company has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and appears heading toward liquidation. Blue Harvest nears the end, they say, and the company, which sold fish to a number of grocery chains around the country, had a bold mission statement. Blue Harvest is transforming commercial fishing into an industry that is defined by sustainability, governed by transparency, and bound to the promise of delivering excellence to every plate and every person who loves seafood as much as we do, is what the company shared on its website. Marketing itself as an environmentally responsible company, Blue Harvest tried to reinvest its industry built around sustainable business practices and says, quote, "We believe in the careful management of fisheries as natural resources that we all have an obligation to protect. And because we own responsibility for the entire process from our fleet to your table, we can ensure we'll be fishing for generations to come," end quote. They may be fishing, but maybe not operating under this company, as the company filed 9 separate bankruptcy cases that included 40 individual LLCs, the New Bedford Light reported, and according to the filings, the company's assets range from $50 million to $100 million, and its liabilities are estimated between $100 million and $500 million. The Blue Harvest vendors and their workers face very, very bad news. Under a Chapter 7 filing, a company's assets will be liquidated and used to pay off creditors. In theory, someone could buy some of the assets and keep parts of the business operating under new owners, and it's unclear what the company's past customer relationship would be worth, as Blue Harvest has not been serving those customers since early September. and it's likely that its biggest customers have moved on to new vendors, greatly diminishing the value of the company at auction. But I think the most important part here is how a company that could potentially be worth upwards of $100 million have liabilities estimated between $100 million and $500 million, which I feel like you should be able to easily determine your liabilities within like 10 million. Like, to have this $400 million range of I don't know how much money and who we all owe money to, it's a little ridiculous if you ask me. I had to change my battery. So on this camera, the battery doesn't really last like all, oh God, my shoulder is killing me. Oh God. It doesn't really last that long. The crazy part about it is I'm not even shooting in 4K right now. I'm just shooting in regular 1080p, and it's still draining that battery pretty quickly. But I like the camera. It's just the battery life isn't the greatest. Moving on, we've got another one here to talk about, another bankruptcy, and this is the car crisis. Car dealers' overnight bankruptcy leaves customers in the lurch and forced to take last resort with $1,000 owed. I don't know if it's $1,000 or several thousands of $1,000, or I don't know why they chose to use thousands of dollars. Really strange. But it says here that parents who wanted to help buy their teen son his first car lost thousands of dollars after the dealership abruptly closed only days after they paid a down payment, and they had to take drastic action to recover it. Now, I can only imagine the type of car dealership here, but this is my first time reading the story with you, so we're going to continue on before I share my opinions here, or my assumptions. Billy and Misty Berger put $3,200 down on a 2012 Hyundai Elantra for their 16-year-old son from Off Lease Only in Bradenton, Florida, near Sarasota. Actually, here they are right here. There's a picture of them right there. I'm sure I gotta find the sweet spot. I don't know if y'all can see the picture of them, but Off Lease Only. Now, this is a logo that I've seen a lot on Auto Trader. I'd see them all the time on Auto Trader. That's a very familiar logo. Let me know if you guys have seen that logo. It says that the couple placed their down payment on September 4 and had yet to pick up the car when just 3 days later they saw that the dealership had closed and filed for bankruptcy. Off Lease Only's website announced that it filed for voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A statement on the website said, "Unfortunately, we will need to terminate our contracts with our vendors. Any unpaid charges for goods and services provided prior to September 7, 2023 will be addressed as part of our Chapter 11 process and are considered pre-petition claims." Okay. And then on September 8, their $3,200 check cleared the bank, is what this couple says. The family received their down payment back only after investigator at WFLA reached out to a public relations firm that worked with the company. And I thought, wow, last resort. I called you and you responded. I couldn't believe it, Berger said, of investigative journalist Shannon Binkin. And the firm told WFLA that Off Lease Only was working to return deposits for unfinanced deals. And this could potentially be true, okay? But I don't know how Off Lease operates, but there's a few things here with this story, which would be, one, I'm not going to give a dealership any money for a car that I'm not taking possession of that day. Not gonna happen, okay? I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, a used vehicle, if I'm giving you money, you're giving me the car. Number two would be, I typically would never ever, I have never ever, and I would never ever finance through a used car dealership unless it was a major chain dealership like a Hendrix or a Penske or Rick Case or big name like that. But usually I bring my own financing, so I don't even have to worry about it. They don't really enjoy that because they don't get to make money on the back end in the finance, but I would just bring them a check. Now, the exception would be, depending on the dealership and depending on the vehicle, obviously you have deposits for allocations and special orders and things like that. And that's a little different. It's a little different. But there are some shady dealerships out there, which, I mean, maybe the staff didn't know, so they're operating business as usual. But I feel like the finance guy probably knew, so there should have been, like, there really shouldn't have been any instance where they took money that they had to return. Just my opinion. Next up is a blanket statement, I guess. I think I've already seen this one before. It might be a repeat. But it says that consumers are starting to buckle for the first time in a decade. And this is coming from the former Walmart CEO, Bill Simmons. Which I don't know what Bill Simmons does now, but whatever he does now, I guess, isn't as impressive as what he did before, because they chose to use former Walmart CEO. Like, okay, cool. Who are you today? He says, or the article says, according to CNBC here, find that sweet spot. There it is. There it is. Consumers starting to buckle, and the draw of bargains may be fading as three of the nation's biggest retailers kick off a key sales week, and former Walmart US CEO Bill Simmons warns consumers are starting to buckle for the first time in a decade, and he's blaming a list of headwinds weighing on consumers, including inflation, higher interest rates, federal budget wrangling, polarized politics, and student loan repayments, and now new global tensions connected to violence in Israel. And quote, that sort of pileup wears on the consumer and makes them weary, is what he said. And for the first time in a long time, there's a reason for the consumer to pause. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always been a reason. I don't know if I'd say the first time in a long time, but the reasons are definitely probably more apparent, much clearer today than they were 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago. But that's just me. The timing comes as Amazon begins its 2-day Prime Big Deal Days sale on Tuesday. Walmart and Target are trying to compete with their own sales events to get an early jump on the holiday shopping season. And Simmons observes the retailers have a glaring thing in common: the bargains are not as deep. I don't know. It says they usually say 50-inch TVs $199 or something like that, and now they say 50-inch TV 40% off. You use percentages when you're not real proud of your price point. I think you've got inflation pushing the relative price points up. I don't know if I agree with that, Bill, because not only like trends change, okay? Advertising, effective advertising and marketing strategies change, and consumers' behaviors and habits and what grabs their attention changes. So if you see 50-inch TV for $199 all the time, you become desensitized to that price, so you don't really get excited to go buy one anymore. Where if it said 40% off, that may change your opinion and actually create some sort of interest in buying this item. And it's just change. It's a change. It's an evolution. I don't know if I would necessarily say you're not proud of the price, but we've seen it even here on YouTube and social media, where algorithms have changed because of people's behavior changing. And what used to work last year, for instance, if you take a video title and thumbnail from last year and use it this year, it probably be extremely ineffective because things change. So in order for you to have the best possible chance of standing out in front of your potential target market, target customer, target audience, then you too are going to have to change or get left behind. Maybe a reason why he's the former CEO and not the current CEO, but says that shares on Amazon, Walmart, and shares of Amazon, Walmart, and Target are under pressure over the past 2 months. Target is performing the worst of the three, off 19%. Kind of goes without saying. Simon, who sits on the Darden Restaurants and Hanes Brands boards, believes Walmart does have a big advantage over its competitors right now. In quote, "It's solely because of the food business. They're going to have both the eyeballs and the food traffic to probably have a better Christmas than maybe their competitors." Which would then make me wonder, well, then how's Amazon in the middle? Is Amazon's food business that strong and viable, or not? Or is it the fact that Amazon doesn't have the physical footprint and the brick and mortar store locations like Walmart does, so they don't have to worry about the exorbitant amount of theft and loss that they experience inside the stores, as well as the other liabilities that come with the staff? So, I don't know. It's a good question. But either way, I think that this holiday shopping season is going to be interesting. It's going to be unique. I'd be surprised at how mainstream media wants to spin the current state of the economy and the consumers' shopping strength and available credit, and then also what we will be told come Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all these other big sale days, where they say, oh, consumers are out shopping more than ever, buying more than this, that, and the other. Consumers are spending more this year than they have in the past. And I'm gonna stick with what I said last year. I don't believe it at all, but I also think that they are actually telling the truth. It is somewhat accurate, and what they're saying is that people are spending more, but I would say that they're spending more because things cost more. They're not spending more because they're getting more or because they're buying more. It's just that everything costs more. So it's like if you were to look at it from the housing market perspective and say, well, home buyers are spending more on their primary residence than ever before. Yeah, that's because home prices have gone up by like 100% in some instances, but maybe like 40 or 50%. And home prices, they're just high. So it's like we bought our first house in 2010, and it was $134,000. And just to humor me here as I pull it up, and I'll tell you how much it is today. So we bought it for $134,000 in 2010, and Zillow, it's off market, but Zillow says that the same house, this is crazy, y'all. The same house that we paid $134,000 for, all right, I'm gonna see if I can get this focus to work. Come on, camera, work with me here. Y'all see that? All right, I think it's settled down now. We bought it in 2010 for $134,000. Now, granted, 13 years ago. And then we sold it in 2014 for $148,900. But today, Zillow says that the same house is going to go for, y'all see that? $345,100. $345,100. That is insane. That's more than 100% jump in price. It's more than double. Because double would have been 268,000. God dog. Whew. When you say it like that, it really puts things into perspective. But then to say that, oh, people are spending more on homes today than they have in decades, or than they have in a decade or 10 years. It's like they are spending more, not by choice, they're spending more by force. They're spending more due to inflation, and they're not getting more. That house is still the same house. It's actually not the same house. It's older now. When we bought it, it was a brand new flip, had a brand new roof on it, new appliances. It was pretty much completely redone. Now, 13 years later, it's probably just been maintained, and it's older and probably needs some work done to it, and it costs more. It hasn't been the size, it hasn't had an increase in square footage or anything like that. So when I hear these stories, when I hear the news and the media and headlines and people portraying these events and these figures or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but I understand what you're really saying, and it's not really what they would want you to believe, basically. But they too understand and realize the position that they're in, and that is a position to promote spending, promote consumption, okay? Because they are being paid by companies and businesses and advertisers to generate sales. And sometimes we even have that conundrum and that dilemma here, whereas Michelle and I will debate on this from time to time about just that. And if you make a video that promotes saving money and better financial preparation versus product review and product promotion and pushing sales, the algorithm will pick and choose who they want to get more views based on their advertisers and based on how much they can influence the economy to go out and spend money. I don't have any concrete proof or evidence, but we just have a few instances where we can compare and say, seems kind of funny how things played out. But I appreciate you guys sitting here listening to me yap on for however long this has been. If you enjoyed it, let me know. Until next time, see you guys.